Not your ass! You will not laugh. You will not cry. You will learn by the numbers. I will teach you. Now get up!
One little quick admin note here before we get started and jump into it. Tomorrow's highly anticipated interview with John McAfee is going to have to be pushed back to the 27th. I'm a little disappointed in that. I've been trying to get him on for about a month and a half now, but when you're an eccentric tech billionaire who's on the run from the U.S. government in international waters, you kind of get to set the schedule. So look for that on the 27th. So getting into what we're going to talk about today, we are going to talk with somebody that you all know and love, especially if you're familiar with this program, Mr. Lyman Bishop of Hoplite Armor and Montana gubernatorial candidate. Lyman, how are we doing today?
Very good, thank you.
Yes,
and
yes.
You've got to be happy that I'm running as a libertarian, I suppose.
Oh, you are registered as a libertarian.
I am.
Very,
yes.
Very good. Oh, and joining us tonight is fellow Montanan Matt Christiansen of Matt Christiansen on the YouTubes and podcasts. Matt, how are you?
I'm well. I think I'm coming down with something. I hope it's not coronavirus, but thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Hey, thank you for coming on. We really appreciate both of you guys taking time out and joining us here. So here at Roads to Liberty, we know that the news media and politics is always very, very divisive. So we like to do things a little bit different. We're all about bringing people together. So we're going to bring candidates and constituents together. And Matt, why don't you just kick it off? Ask Lyman a question. What's on your mind?
I know very little about Lyman, but I'm very intrigued for a few reasons. One, I'm an available voter because I can't vote for my guy Congressman Body Slam here in Montana. So I'm very interested in what some alternative candidates have to say, and specifically what you have to say about the NFA. Because from what I haven't read much about you, but about your plan to, I don't know, tell the feds to leave us alone in this state.
Nullify the NFA, right?
Yeah. So I'd like to start there. What would be your plan what is your plan regarding the NFA in Montana?
Basically, all I have to do is put my signature on a piece of paper, right? The Montana Firearms Freedom Act was passed in 2009. Schweitzer was afraid to ratify it because the feds came down on him. ATF threatened him. Feds threatened to pull funding. Bullock's not even going to touch it. I'll ratify the thing day one, right?
Okay.
And that effectively nullifies the NFA.
Right. So if I understand that correctly, that's just state of Montana saying we will not enforce federal gun laws as long as the item is manufactured within the state. Yeah.
It's not even a matter of not enforcing it. It's really pushing in the other direction. It's saying that we will not allow you to enforce it.
I
right?
see.
So in other words, you get some ATF guys think they're going to go pull a raid on somebody. We will literally show up behind them and arrest them. Right. Just to put it in blunt terms, because they'd be violating state law. It comes down to a 10th Amendment issue. Congress believing they have the authority to restrict or otherwise control trade within the state. No, they have the ability to enforce various regulations on interstate trade. So anything that happens in Montana and stays in Montana is none of their business. That's what it comes down to.
Right, and that was kind of the crux of how the NFA was kind of pushed through the courts to begin with, was that it was a matter of a tax issue and an interstate commerce.
Right. That's all it is. It's a taxing branch of the IRS, effectively, right? Just another taxing arm of the government. Right.
Yep.
So can you explain to me how the feds strong-armed the state into bending the knee on this? Basically?
Yeah, they threatened to pull funding.
That's it. They just said we're not going to cut you checks for across the border,
or
was
reduce
something
checks
specific?
or whatever it was. I can't say for certain to what extent because I wasn't in that meeting, but I can certainly tell you how I would respond to that. Right? Bring your worst. We'll just fight it in the courts. There's other things we can do too. I've got an economic plan that for strategic reasons I'm holding off on divulging the fullness of. But in short, it would give Montana the ability to stand on its own 2 feet financially. In other words, we would not need their money.
Okay.
Send
what,
bachelors and come heavily armed.
Yeah. Well, I live in Bozeman, and one of the reasons I love living here is it's a high quality of life place, and I don't want to leave, and I don't want much to change other than maybe relaxing the tax burden and things like that. But aside from say the gun issue, which I know you're outspoken about, like, what do you think is the is your big issue in running your campaign here? What is your main stump speech?
Well, if you're referring to the primary points to which I will fight on behalf of the people,
yeah,
and certainly it's more than just firearms, right? We're talking about the entire Constitution, enforcing it as it was originally written and interpreted. The idea that it's a living document, the idea that courts can weigh in and make changes to the Constitution is an abomination. Really, it's constitutional heresy, is what it is. So it really comes down to, with regards to the Second Amendment or with regards to any issues surrounding the Constitution, it's just as simple as this. We are going to reestablish our rights in accordance with the Constitution as it was originally written and intended, without compromise and without negotiation.
You're speaking my language. I like to hear that. I mean,
this is just plain, simple, basic common sense that these people don't seem to understand. And they're looking at a tidal wave of angry people that are going to push back and fight in any way that they feel led, unless we can do something to turn things around and provide them. And I say this all the time, right? Legitimize their concerns. And let's be honest, they've got some legitimate concerns that are not being taken seriously. But they are legitimate nonetheless, and they do need to be legitimized in the mainstream discussion points, brought to the forefront and dealt with properly. If you don't, you're going to have, all manner of social disorder, whether it be tax revolts or something worse. There's a lot of people that are looking to this in particular to spearhead what we hope to be the future of how we govern our people in America moving forward.
What's I don't know much about your background. Have you been in government before, or what's your background prior to this?
No,
yeah, you're much too sensible to have been in government, I suppose.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the point. Look, everybody running for this office is either a millionaire or a career politician or both, and in reality, they're all both, right? You got Gianforte, who ran for governor, took a Senate seat. Now he wants to run for governor again. He wants to vacate that seat to God knows who, to take this position. I look at it and I think, what are you up to? I don't trust you. Plain and simple. I do not trust you. A millionaire running for office over and over, the same office, aiming for the highest seat in the state. What is up his sleeve? What back deals, arrangements has he? What am I trying to say? Backroom deals that he's made with God knows who, to do God knows what. I don't know. I don't trust it. When you're looking at all the other people, career politicians, guess what? You're already embedded in the system. You've chosen this for a career. That's a problem, number one. The way that this was originally intended, politics in this country, was supposed to be where a common man takes issue with a particular point, whatever it might be, runs for office in an attempt to rectify the situation. Hopefully he gets elected. Hopefully he's successful in what he wants to do. But at the end of it, he goes home and goes back to doing whatever he used to do. And that, to me, is so important. When you got people that are trying to make a career out of this, we got problems. And look at where it's gotten us so far.
23 trillion in debt.
Right. And let's talk about that for a minute, right? The Federal Reserve comes along, and somehow we trade 100 years of American wealth and prosperity for 23 trillion in debt. There's a problem. These people are stealing from us. And that's what everybody's so angry about. They understand that their rights are being infringed on. They understand that their future is being stolen from out from under their nose. And it's just got to stop. And the only way it's going to stop is if we put a common man in a position of power who understands the perspective of the people and is willing to do anything it takes to enforce that will. Period. So I represent a hard push of the pendulum in the other direction. A hard push like we've never seen before.
I like that spirit. I like fighting for change, or not just trying to slow down other people in terms of their destruction of the system, but actually trying to fight back and restore some constitutional fidelity. I like that spirit. And these are things you almost never hear from the two-party politicians. You don't hear words like originalism. You don't hear words like constitutional fidelity.
Not in
You
the
don't hear
two-party
words like
system, no.
freedom or liberty or those sorts of things. So I appreciate what you're saying.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, people throw these terms around loosely,
Yeah.
without really understanding or validating the fullness of what that means. Ron Paul, I really liked him. I felt like, he had a solid message. I just felt like he needed to be a little more forceful in it. And, that's kind of in my nature. And that being the case, I really feel like not only have I been called to this work, but I've been prepared for it. And I've been put in a position where I can actually, find myself in that role, God willing, should the people, agree with what I have to say, which by and large, I have yet to meet a single person that doesn't in the state of Montana. You may have people in liberal states across the country that are probably shrieking in horror at the thought of me doing the things I want to do, but that concerns me very little.
So Nathan, one of the guys that helps admin our little site here, he says, why did you decide to run as a libertarian? Because I know that the last time that we talked about this, you were mulling running as a Republican just for the fact that
No, not a Republican. I was going to run as an independent.
Oh, independent. Yeah.
I was going to run as an independent, and really it came down to the night that I was going to file. And, it really kind of hit me that it might be in my best interest to align myself with a party. And I stopped with that thought. I went to bed and I started writing what became my campaign announcement. And I went through it as I always do, step by step, analyzing every option. And, of course, I started with the ridiculous, right? The idea of running as a Democrat, which, certainly I wouldn't do. That was brought up in jest. And it was quickly dismissed in the same spirit. But then going down the line, right? Do I run as a Republican? Well, here's the deal there. They are all Republicans in name only, in as much as I can see. And major issues in the party, top to bottom, primarily with regards to our rights and their lack of defending them. And the other obvious point there is that certainly the Republican Party would never nominate me for the position, right? They've got their buddies already locked in. Gianforte, I'm sure, is going to be their front runner. And that's the result of all the little handshakes and backroom deals and everything else that they got brewing. And I just can't take it. I just cannot tolerate the state of Montana or the union and where we're going. And my thought is this: if I don't do this, nobody else is going to do it. And if nobody does it, we're in a world of hurt, plain and simple. And, I guarantee you, I'm the only one currently running for governor. And as you know, registration is closed, right? So you're going to end up with three choices. Well, four. There's a Green Party guy. I don't know who he is or what he stands for, but I don't really think he's a serious candidate. I could be wrong. I don't mean to offend you, whoever you are. But the bottom line is, you're really gonna have three choices. The Democrats, pushing forward with, oh gosh, what's his name, current lieutenant governor, and then you're more than likely going to see Gianforte as the Republican nominee coming out of the primary, and then there's going to be me. And I'll tell you, me as a voter, if I'm watching me, if I'm listening to me or somebody talking like me, he's got my vote. I'll tell you what, I wish somebody would do it, and I would just go, back to my farm and, start cutting some grass or something. But, like I say, if I don't do it, nobody's going to do it. That's the bottom line. And that's what concerns me the most.
So we got another question over here from My Freedom Memes. He wants to know how you feel about secession.
Oh, well, listen, all options are on the table. Right. I mean, and I mean that, because I want to, number one, it's nice to phrase it that way, because that's how our presidents always do when they're about to bomb some third world country, right? All options are on the table. Well, same goes here. And really it comes down to the will of the people. If that's what the people want, believe me, that's what the people are going to get, whether I'm governor or not.
Yeah.
There's really no stopping the will of the people, especially the people of Montana, right? They're some of the most capable people on the planet. I have great pity for any fool that would try to undermine that authority.
Nathan says that you look like what he pictures in his mind that a governor from Montana would look like.
Well, good.
Yeah.
Good. Hopefully I sound like one too. And look, I realize that at times I get a little bit, you know, fired up about this stuff. But I'll tell you, I mean, I've been growing up watching this nonsense my whole life. I've been watching politicians lie, cheat, and steal, use their office for their own gain, use it to undermine the will of the people, and really, for that matter, undermine the republic itself. And, it was about 8 years ago that I felt a very strong call to do the things that I'm doing. And it took that long to put everything in place. And I can't look at that as a coincidence. I really do believe that I've been called to this. I've been prepared for this. What comes of it from this point forward is up to the people. And, I can tell you this word is spreading about what I'm saying and what I'm doing. A friend of mine lives in California. He was at a coffee shop yesterday, overheard some people talking about me there. And believe it or not, even they like me. Right. So if they like me, my God, you might as well just get out of the way. The best thing for all these other guys, just drop out. Because if I beat you, you're never going to live it down, right? Who's this, never been in politics, stepping up? But you know what? I represent the will of the people. And that's something that nobody else can say. And I promise you, that's not something anybody else will do. I think we all know that all too well, though, don't we?
Well, at least as far as from the career politicians, yeah.
And well, which they all are. Let's be very clear about that. If you've run for office, and okay, maybe you failed the first time, you took another office, and you're seeking a second office, you're a career politician.
Yeah,
No
true.
two ways about it. And what are his goals, right? What's next? You're going to try to run for president or something? Oh, Lord. I'm just scared to death of these people, and it just can't happen anymore. We need more people like me in every state running for every office. I don't care if it's city council or governor. We need people stepping up in every state to do this. And that's how we take it back. That's how we take it back with the least amount of pain and suffering and any of the nonsense that goes with it. Just nice, easy transition of power back to the people. Simple. That's what we need desperately. And like I said, I wish somebody would do this for me, but they're not. The die is cast, right? The registration period is over. Those who are in it, and no one else. So there is no one coming up behind me. There is no one to take this place. I wish I could just sit back and, enjoy 1953, but it's just not going to happen.
Yeah. Well, I'm running for Congress here in Nebraska, so we'll see how that goes.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yep, yeah. I am filed. I am registered. I'm going to be. Hopefully, the weather breaks here in the next weekend, so I'll be able to go out and start knocking on doors. But yeah, it's part of that was inspiration by you. Part of it was a lot of people here were just like, yeah, you should do it, and a big part of it was we needed a name in the spot, and I was just like, fuck it, put me in there. I don't care.
Awesome. Well, and what's really interesting is the day that I filed, I was contacted by the director of the Montana Libertarian Party. And I could tell after about 20 minutes that his jaw was, fully on the floor. And, he had nothing but good things to say. I could tell I got my point across. And he was in touch with my people shortly thereafter. Then we got in touch with some other people within the party. Long story short, and I think I can say this now because the registration period is over. Libertarian Party is making a big push in the western states, right? Wyoming in particular, but Montana as well. Mm-hmm. And from what they've told me, they are looking to use my campaign to spearhead all of that. Good. Which is great. That means we'll get lots of support from them and hopefully lots of exposure. In the end, I just feel like if every Montanan can hear me speak for even 5 minutes, they'll know what to do.
What's your campaign strategy at this point? Have you been successful in getting out the word? Are you? So what are you knocking doors? Are you doing advertising?
No, we're not doing that yet. The strategy is going to evolve over time. Where I am now is, doing lots of podcasts, radio interviews. 98.5 is going to have me on soon. They're going to interview Gianforte on Monday. And they want to bring me in shortly thereafter. I've gotten to know the people at the station. They are 100% behind me. They cannot wait to get me on their show. They're actually going to try to get me on there as a kind of a walk-on guest, for multiple sessions, one of which really being geared towards the election, partly because there's this, equal coverage kind of legal matters in place that require them to. But beyond that, they would like to have me, essentially come and be a part of the show on, with some frequency, right?
Mm-hmm.
To what extent, I think we still have to work that out. But that's all fine and good. I've got an interview with somebody from PBS coming up here in a couple days. Next week, this weekend, I've got a couple guys coming up here to film a documentary of all things. And these guys contacted me. They wanted to do this. Okay, great. Open door. Come on up. I did a interview the other day on a radio station in Havre. And, what I loved about that is she wanted sound bites. So that's easy enough. I can, give you some good sound bites. But at the end of it, she told me off the record, according to her, off the record, she said I did far better than any of the other candidates in their interviews, and she had interviewed all but one. So I'm guessing she hadn't yet interviewed the Green Party guy. Listen, I can promise you give me a debate with these people, I'll leave them limping off the stage, right?
What's the prospect for that? Is that something that could happen?
Oh, they're going to try to shut me out.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're going to try to shut me out, no doubt. Especially when they hear how fiery I am, and I'm typically pretty quick with words. They're going to be in a world of hurt if they let me on that stage. I can promise you, because we will absolutely dominate that setting.
What do you have to achieve to get on the stage? What's the threshold?
I really don't know what it takes. I mean, essentially, they can block me out if they want to, right? It's the two-party system at work. Right. And they want to silence other voices. You know what? Let them silence me, because the people are going to hear me one way or the other.
Right. The internet exists.
Yeah.
That's the thing. We dominate the digital realm. Dominate it. They can't touch us.
Yeah, your meme game has been strong lately.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I got to check it out. Where are you posting them? How do I find them?
Instagram, Facebook. So
Gotcha.
Instagram is at Hoplite Armor. The other one's at Lyman Bishop for Governor, and I tend to post the same stuff from one to the other.
That's right. I was curious about your armor business too. How long have you been doing that?
Well, I've been designing and developing armor for the better part of 15 years.
Okay.
Hoplite's a little over 5 years old.
I'll check it out. I've been in the market for a long time. I just never pulled the trigger.
Well, these days it's pretty important to have.
Yeah, pack it up with your Hawaiian shirt,
You bet. Yeah, you might as well have fun while you're doing it.
Yeah.
Hey, he sells a Hawaiian shirt too, and a Hawaiian pattern plate carrier.
Oh, I figured
wow.
Knew that. Yeah, I've got the Aloha plate carrier, and yeah, that thing's pretty awesome, and it's very popular. And I guess you'll know who's on your team. If things go wild, look for the Aloha patterns. Those are the good guys.
Yeah.
You're coming out with a helmet soon too, aren't you?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I just buttoned it up today. It's up on the site and live right now.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
And the dog armor.
And the dog armor. That's right. I know, man. It's I don't even know how I'm bringing this much stuff out with concurrent with all this stuff, because it's a challenge. I'm basically up till 3 a.m. working every night, and up early back at it.
You're running the business while you do the campaign. You're not taking leave or something like that.
No, but I did hire a guy. Actually, a guy came in and bought out a couple of my business partners and took their place, and now he's running the shipping facility, which is 1.5 miles away from the factory. So that's why we set it up there out in Wichita, Kansas. Matter of fact, I gave him my truck, so now I've got to go buy a new one, but it'll be that van you may have seen online.
The armored van?
Hobbs, you gotta know about it.
But I got to check it out, I guess.
So, think A-Team meets Tank meets Lyman Bishop, right? I mean, it's
okay. All right.
Yeah, so basically it's a cargo van.
Basically, yeah.
It's a cargo van that's got ballistic panels all through it. Years ago I came up with a smoke screen, literal smoke screen, right, for vehicles that is far more effective than you would ever think possible. I've seen people on TV try things with smoke screens using, dry ice and other silly things. And, that just doesn't work. But what I'm using, and I guess, why not just go ahead and divulge it, right? So that everybody can make their own. A fire extinguisher. A fire extinguisher. You blast that thing out there. You just drive down the road and shoot it out your window. You're closing down 4 lanes of traffic. I promise.
Really? Guess I've never tried it.
No joke. Yeah. Well, I was, I was an engineer even when I was a kid. You know, I was always thinking up stuff and building stuff. And I had an RX-7 I got from my sister one time. And I took a fire extinguisher and I put the nozzle of it out the hatchback, you know, and just closed the window on it. Not
Yeah.
all the way, just enough so the nozzle stuck out. I put a bicycle brake cable on the handle, ran the actuator up to the stick shift, and there was a couple buddies of mine walking up the street. So I thought, let's smoke them, right? I literally shut down 4 lanes of traffic. I got to the top. I was like 16, you know. I get to the top of the hill, and there's a red light, and I'm like, oh my gosh, my buddy Kenny's in the car. I'm like, we're in so much trouble. We just shut down this whole street, and here we're stuck at a red light. And we must have got there right when it turned, because we sat there for a full 2 to 3 minutes, and not one car came up that hill, and there was a bunch behind us. It worked. It really worked. So, okay, so the van's got smoke screen. Hey, man, you know, when you're going up against the deep state, you better be ready, because I promise you somebody's going to try something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a lot of advantages, though, right? You know, I live on a little ranch in Montana. My next door neighbor is the newly elected county sheriff. He's a constitutional sheriff. Right before the UPS thing went down, you know, a couple of weeks before, he and I had a discussion about red flag laws. And he said that neither he nor any county sheriff in the state of Montana would ever execute any red flag laws.
Huh.
So I knew
Is
I was
there,
safe when that hit.
I don't follow the state legislature super closely, but is there anyone trying to push that sort of thing, or are they too smart to try something like that in this state?
You cut out at the beginning. Repeat it.
Oh, sorry. I don't follow like the state legislature super closely, but is there anyone making a serious push for that sort of thing, or are we?
No, that's not going to get by.
They're too smart.
Yeah, well,
so far,
they're
at least.
Montana. They're not putting up with that. They're smarter than that.
Well, I don't know. I mean, with all the people moving in, listen, I see a new California plate every day driving around here, and I hope they're the refugees as opposed to the people who tried voting.
The invasion force
voting the wrong way down there, and then thought maybe they'll do it right this time by doing it.
That's why we need good people coming to Montana. You know, and you see it all the time. Hey, Montana's closed, and no more room. But let's remember our roots, right? In the old days, especially places like Trout Creek, we would recruit people at the train stations. We're talking employees, business partners, even wives were recruited at the train station. As silly as that sounds, I mean, think about it. Old West,
Yeah.
Why not? Dude goes on a train. Hey, any ladies here want to come be my wife and live on my farm and, have a nice life?
Yeah.
Guess what? They got him, so it was more a matter of necessity back then. And, the same is true today. There's strength in numbers. And the more good people we get coming to Montana, the stronger we are. Yes, we want the liberals to stay put and not come here. Don't bring your ideologies here. It's not going to work. It's not going to fly. You get me in office and you're going to have that much more of a barrier to protect you from that sort of thing.
Well, of course,
but in the end,
so sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say the other thing I worry about too is not even necessarily. I do worry about Montana being compromised by people moving in with the wrong value system. But the other thing I worry about on the national level is just continued efforts to diminish the sovereignty of, or at least the quasi-sovereignty of small states like ours. You see them talking about eliminating the Electoral College. You see them talking about how the Senate is undemocratic or whatever else. And those things make me very nervous as someone who lives in a state like ours that doesn't have a lot of say nationally. Right. But, that's why I like living here. I like living here because I can escape people very quickly, because I can have my own space away from it all.
That's probably true of most of us.
And I think we all live here and we mostly just want to be left alone. People ask me about the politics of Montana all the time. And as you know, I wouldn't characterize it as distinctly Democrat or distinctly Republican.
No.
I think people mostly vote leave me alone in this state. Mostly.
That's right.
And
that was part of the strategy behind coming in as a libertarian.
Yeah, and I view a lot of the threats to that lifestyle mostly as coming from national forces, as opposed to, say, my neighbors here or something like that, or even Helena.
Sure.
No, there you go. The thing you just said about wanting good people to come to Montana is something that I wanted to touch on. I see it every time you post a meme or a post or anything talking about how you're running for governor. I see just stacks and stacks and stacks of people saying, if Lyman wins, I'm moving to Montana. Well, the thing is,
that'd be cool.
Don't wait.
That's true.
If everybody that says if Lyman wins, I'm coming to Montana would get off their ass now, get there, register to vote, and vote, Lyman will get elected to Montana. If you can afford to just up and move to a state because of a politician, no matter who it is, then you kind of owe it to yourself and to the people who think like you in that state to do that. And I know that that's kind of edging on that whole shifting demographics thing that the people from California get accused of when they move to another state and then ruin it. But that's the God's honest truth.
I think that's a great idea too, in that what you're pursuing is the sort of peaceful resolution you're talking about. I mean,
Right.
on our stream and on my channel all the time, one of the things we worry about is, like, as power concentrates, liberty is never restored through those who have control of the power voluntarily giving it back. And nobody's endorsing that. Like, I'm not hoping for conflict, but that's just the way things work out. And maybe what you're describing is a peaceful way to approach this, that if people are serious about their value systems, you say, you know what, I believe in this value system so much, I'm going to vote with my feet, I'm going to move out of here, and I'm going to go to a place where people share that worldview. So I don't think that's
right
crazy
out
at
of my
all.
mouth.
Yeah.
Vote with your feet. And a lot of people have the same questions. What am I going to do for work? Well, there's plenty of ways to make money online. You can be just about anywhere doing that. And it doesn't take a whole lot to get that started financially. In my area, Flathead Valley, there are a number of opportunities for employment, perhaps more so than a lot of parts of the state. And I do think that good people coming to Montana sooner rather than later is definitely something that we should all be open to. And I get it. I've lived in places that were very rural, and that changed almost overnight. And so there always has to be a balance in the way that we do this. And the bottom line, though, is this. Growth and expansion is coming to Montana inevitably, whether we like it or not. We can either be controlled by it or we can control it. It's one of the two. And by bringing in people of like mind, that number one is going to help us to control it, right? Everything that we do moving forward should, essentially be in line with that philosophy, right? The idea, well, it's in our state constitution, respect the environment and, tread lightly. And, wherever people are, we're always going to leave a footprint. That's inevitable. And when it comes to people versus the environment, I hate to put it in such, black and white terms, but, people have to come first, always, right? If we don't have a heart for people, if we don't care for people, then what's all this for, right? I say it all the time with regards to the state of the nation and the authorities. If you're not doing this for the people, then why even do it, right? What's the point, So, that in a nutshell kind of sums up my philosophy on the whole thing, right? It's inevitable, but we can control it. Better that than being controlled by it.
Yeah. Wisely stated. Speaking my language, I like what I hear.
That's fantastic. So, Matt, you have anything that you else you want to ask, or?
No, nothing necessarily on my mind, other than I appreciate you putting up the effort to fight for these ideas. I mean, so rarely do I hear people speak in this language on the political scene. So I appreciate what you're doing, and listen, if you're coming through Bozeman, you have an event here or something, definitely I'd like to swing by or get involved or do what I can. So be encouraged to you can maybe share my email, Hobbs, and we can stay in communication. I'd like to see your campaign successful, obviously.
I appreciate that.
So perhaps we can work together. And failing that, I'll definitely check out your armor website, because I'm looking to buy. And especially if there's
check
Hawaiian
out
print.
the campaign website too.
Yeah.
There's some good information there. It's a much cleaner website than any other candidate in the state. It just goes to show how little these people know about the digital realm. We dominate that area, as I've said, and we will continue to. I get memes sent to me all the time by, what the news refers to as the meme insurgency, right? But these people, they're pretty witty, and they're pretty smart, and they're pretty aware of what's going on. A lot of the memes that I get, I can't share for obvious reasons, because some of them are just a little bit over the top for most people to digest. But a lot of them are really good and really strong. And, it surprises me. My sister looked me up, and Hobbs, I think we lost it. Where'd you go?
Maybe
He's
he'll hop
pulling up
back
the
in.
site. There we go. Yep, Lyman2020.com. And yeah, apparently they got subreddits about me going up and this, that, and the other. I don't even try to keep track of it. But sure enough, yeah, there's the website. We got all kinds of merchandise and whatnot. But there's also, more importantly, some documents there that I've put up, and there's a lot more documents to come. These really only sort of touch on some of the more basic issues, some of the deeper things that we'll be discussing over time. Will be posted there as well, things touching on the economic plan, taxes, all of these things. And just to go on the record, I am strongly opposed to income tax, right? The founding fathers considered it an abomination. And that is something that I believe we need to return to. There are plenty of other ways to raise money and resources to take care of, critical things, rather than tax your populace to death. The single most important natural resource that we have on this planet is people. And so for us to do anything that would hinder or otherwise restrict the growth and prosperity of those people is really just undercutting our own foundation. There's a soundbite for you, a long one, but have it. But it's true, right? I really believe that people are the most important natural resource we have, and we have to take care of that resource first and foremost. I use the example: if you've got a little family that's starving, and for whatever reason they need this piece of land, but there's a rare lizard and the last 12 trees of a certain kind. Guess what? Cut down the trees, build a log cabin, and let these people live. It's that simple. And eat the lizard, right? I mean, look, whatever it takes, people first.
Sure.
So my freedom means
It's kind of a weird example. I probably should have said bird, right? Who's going to eat a lizard? But
I've eaten lizards.
If you're hungry enough, I suppose you will.
I've eaten lizards in the street.
And that's unfortunately one of the things I see in the future is all manner of trouble for all sorts of people all over the country. I can't do much to help everybody else, but I can certainly do a lot to help the people of Montana. And it really just comes down to looking at things with open eyes and an open mind and doing what needs to be done, regardless of what it cost me personally. When the UPS thing came up, I figured that was the end of my business, and I didn't care. I put it all on the line to do and say what was right. Turns out it worked out great. But same thing goes here, right? I don't care what it costs me. I don't care if they kill me for it, because 10 more will rise up in my place. What matters is that we do this, and we do it now with everything that we have, and we don't relent, we don't negotiate, we don't back down. It is our birthright. It does belong to us. These rights are ours. For anyone to say otherwise or to try to interpret it in some other way is just heresy, constitutional heresy. We're in what I call a constitutional Cold War.
What do you mean by that? Explain.
I mean a constitutional Cold War. I mean both sides are conducting themselves peacefully, but we are under attack in every way, shape, or form constitutionally.
Yeah, I mean, I worry about that all the time. The fact that just general Bill of Rights values that you're talking about are no longer universal agreement. I mean, the reason I got into doing this is I used to be a Democrat. I used to be a progressive until I noticed all my friends suddenly no longer defending the free speech rights of people they don't like. And that gets the gears spinning. It's like, well, okay, wait. What else are you guys wrong about? And all of a sudden, we end up here. But to your point, I don't know how many times I have these conversations and I hear people say, well, I support free speech, but I support the Second Amendment, but I support this freedom or that freedom, but, and it's always qualified. Yeah, but I don't like the way this person exercises it or that person exercises it or whatever else. Those values and those that being centered on the constitutional values that you're describing, I think is less and less common, and it's very concerning if you don't have that basis, that base starting point for everybody. I don't know how you're supposed to get along. You don't have a shared value system at that point.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
and I
Well,
think
and that's why it's so critical, in my opinion, that we return to and restore our rights as outlined in the Constitution and as originally intended, without interpretation, without negotiation. Right? I mean, just as simple as that. There's just no room for any sort of bargaining here when it comes to our rights. It's like asking a guy who's got all the wealth in the world and negotiating for him to give up his wealth with nothing in return. Why would he do that? Right? He'll do that if he feels so inclined, but to try to get someone to negotiate that which they already own and give that away for no reason is just insane. It makes no sense whatsoever. The people that are trying to strip you of your Second Amendment rights know all too well that there's no way to put the genie back in the bottle. That's what it really comes down to.
Oh yeah.
No matter what your thoughts are about firearms, there's just no way to get the genie back in the bottle. And so the idea that we're going to strip law-abiding citizens of their right to bear arms negates completely the fact that criminals will continue to have them and use them.
Yeah, the technology exists, and I try to talk to friends who are anti-gun about this all the time. I have friends who say things like, "Well, I just don't want to. I don't want to live in a world where things like Las Vegas are possible." And I agree. I don't want those things to happen. But the reality is, these things are as easy to put together as Legos. You can't.
Right.
You can't eliminate that technology. It's just knowledge that's out there. And if people have the bad intent to use that knowledge and that technology for evil, they will do that. And
Absolutely. They do
this
it
I
every day.
yeah, this belief that you can just erase things we don't like from the world, it's pure fantasy, man. And
It's a
and
logical fallacy.
yeah. And I appreciate what you're saying on that front. It's as far as I'm concerned, my friends I talk to about this all the time. Listen, defend your house however you like. I don't care if
Right.
you want to tackle the home intruder who comes your way. Good for you. But by the same token, please don't come into my home and tell me how I should or should not be able to defend what is mine and my family.
Yeah,
For someone to even think that, considering that is an option shows how little they understand about this nation and what it was founded on. There
Yeah.
is no room for bargaining, no negotiation. This isn't a hostile takeover. You don't get to pick and choose and do
Yeah.
what you like.
Well, of course, Montana
just not
is such an interesting place to live or at least a place to have this discussion with a lot of friends of mine. And it's because it's like, listen, do you have any idea how many firearms are around you right now? Not just in all the houses and the trucks around here, but on the person of the people walking around us right now.
That's true.
Do you have any idea how many guns we are in the immediate vicinity of? And yet,
Yes.
like, one murder in the state of Montana is statewide news. You
Right.
hear that's a huge deal that you'll hear about for weeks on end on the local news broadcasts. So the
Right.
idea that the simple presence of guns is inherently connected to crime or the abuse of others or whatever else. I mean, okay, it's weird to live in this state and hold that perspective, but there are plenty of my peers who seem to do that.
Well, they are the minority in Montana.
I hope so.
Luckily.
I hope so.
And the point is, we need to keep it that way. Oh, I promise you, absolutely.
Well, it is getting a little skewed in Bozeman, man. I'll tell you, we got some weirdos moving.
Well, yeah, there's certain cities where the ideologies have been tainted with false thinking, false logic, and all manner of confusion. But when you step back, forget all the arguments, everything that you think and feel about firearms, and just come right back to the simple point: there's no putting the genie back in the bottle. Period.
Yeah.
End of story.
100%.
Right. So if you disarm law-abiding citizens, all you're doing is allowing them to be victimized. That's all.
Agreed. Well, I've really enjoyed this conversation. I appreciate your time. I gotta get out of here shortly here, but thank you for speaking, and I appreciate everything you're saying, and I hope the best for your campaign, and I look forward to helping out if I can do that.
I appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Okay, guys, that was really.
All right, Hobbs, where are you, buddy?
I'm here. Do you not?
Did he disappear on us?
Oh, I can see him.
So,
can you guys not hear me?
I can't hear.
I
him.
can.
I don't know if he's.
I can hear
he's
you.
talking.
But
well,
great.
Okay.
Well, we might have some technical problems. I can hear you and see you.
Oh, okay. Well,
right.
we'll just
good. Well, I appreciate you guys having me on. I'm happy to do it anytime that my schedule allows.
Okay, cool. Okay, so we'll just close it out here. Matt, why don't you tell everybody out there listening where they can find you and your material? You've had some bomb-ass content on YouTube lately.
Oh, well, thanks. Yeah, it's mattchristiansenmedia.com. You can find all my stuff. So my last name's long, but it's Christian like the religion, S-E-N. mattchristiansenmedia.com. Find all my material there.
Okay, and if you could relay the message to Lyman to do the same, please.
Oh, yeah.
Since he can't hear me.
So Lyman, he wants you to shout out your website and all your stuff as well, so people know where to find you.
Right. Sure. Okay. The Hoplite Armor, HOPLITEARMOR. Hotel Oscar, Papa, Lima, India, Tango, Echo, Alpha, Romeo, Mary, Oscar, Romeo. HopliteArmor.com is my body armor website. And the campaign site is my name, Lyman, LYMAN 2020, Lima, Yankee, Mary, Alpha, November 2020.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you, gentlemen, for stopping by tonight. If you want to hang around when we pull the live stream down, you guys can exchange email addresses so you can keep in touch with each other. Thank you, everybody, for watching. I know it was a little bit earlier than we normally have it, but we had a ton of engagement, both in the live chat here and also on my my Facebook watch party. So this has been probably one of the better episodes that I've done. Thank you, gentlemen, both, and everybody stay strapped or get clapped. Thank you very much for joining us.